현대사회는 액체 공포가 지배하고 있다. 지그문트 바우만. 지그문트 바우만은 폴란드 출신의 영국의 사회학자로 오직 흐릿한 윤곽으로만 포착되지만 분명 이 세상에 격심하게 존재하고 있는 불안의 정서를 액체 공포라는 표현으로 규정한 바 있습니다. 그의 명언에 대해 들어보겠습니다.
About how we live today in a state of constant anxiety about the dangers that could strike unannounced at any moment. Why are we so frightened?
Fear means fear flowing, unanchored, not staying in one place, but diffuse. And the trouble with liquid fear, unlike the concrete specific danger which you know, are familiar with, is that you don't know where from it will strike. We are walking, that's my favorite metaphor, as if on a minefield. We are aware that the field is full of explosives, but we can't tell where there will be an explosion and when. There are no solid structure around us on which we can rely, in which we can invest our hopes and expectations. Even most powerful governments very often cannot deliver on their promise. They don't have enough power to do so. Your job, even in the most reputable and apparently very rich company, may suddenly disappear tomorrow morning. You go to bed, you may wake up redundant. The partnerships between people are also fragile. They are until further notice. They are not till death do us part. And when two people are in a similar situation, and they know that they are here together because they bring satisfaction to each other. Now, if they know about that, then they live in constant fear. What about if the other partner first decides that it is time to give notice and disappear? So on every level of human life, you have the same situation. Uncertainty, impossible to predict the future. And even after you have made your decision, after long deliberation, a very careful, very meticulous calculation, looking retrospectively, you still are not sure whether you made the right or wrong decision.
But is that very different from how it was in the past? Is that only confined to today? Was it not like that in the past? We had uncertainty in the past.
Of course, dangers were with us, with our ancestors, as long as humanity is on Earth. But it was a different story. Well, in the Middle Ages, there were wolves in the forest, so you had to prevent your children going there and keep them at home. Not go to the forest alone. Danger. Now, instead of dangers, we have what great German sociologist Ulrich Beck called society of risks. Risks mean that at best you can calculate the probability of catastrophe. But probability, it's a very foggy idea. Probability, there may be 90% probability, but still you are in this 110% there, or other way around. Only 10% probability, but you are in this stuck 10%. I put it in one word, actually, in the state of continuous uncertainty, which makes us afraid.
In that case, does that help explain why some politicians like Donald Trump, for example, in the United States, does that explain why they are so popular? Because they claim to have the answers, the definitive answers to this uncertainty?
Well, to put it briefly, there are two crucial values without which a sensible human life is simply inconceivable. One is security, a measure of security, feeling safe. The other is freedom, ability to self-assert, to do what you really would like to do, and so on. They are both necessary. Security without freedom is slavery. Freedom without security is complete chaos when you are lost, abandoned, you don't know what to do. So you need measure of one and the other. We are incredibly more free than our grandfathers or great-grandfathers were. But we pay the price. We have to exchange it for security. A good deal of security has been surrendered. Now we observe what I call the turn of the pendulum. People found themselves uneasy lost, incapable to act with certainty, with assurance. What's happening today, I think, is, as a turning of the pendulum. Among other things, it means Donald Trump. Dream about returning somebody who will have the courage, the ambition, the boldness to say, give me the power and I will take responsibility for your future. And that's exactly what Donald Trump says. And there are many people like them. There is a lot of political capital in making this sort of promises. That look, democracy did not pass the test. Democracy is weak. Democracy cannot deliver. Democracy is very strong in its mouth, but not in its deeds. But trust me, and I will change the situation. America will be again great, or Marine Le Pen in France will be again great, great power, and we won't allow to shit. That's one thing, one answer to your question. The need for a strong man, strong power, something which our grandfathers fought against. They were afraid of totalitarianism. Young people like you forgot what totalitarianism was. You know about it from reading textbooks, but you haven't experienced that. I did. I experienced two of them. The other, however, thing is that in economic progress, in growing GNP and things like that, are always people who are winners and people who are losers. The dismantling of the network of security was particularly strongly felt by people lower down in the social hierarchy, people living in poverty or close to poverty, or the so-called precariat, people in middle class, at the moment self-assured, at the moment well off, but damn afraid that it may not last, that they may at any moment lose their social position. What if I have a very nice social position, I would like to stick to it, I would like to continue, but what if tomorrow I will learn that my company doesn't exist anymore and my services are not needed? So we are already afraid. Precariat lives by anxiety, by fear. That is the most important defining mark of the precariat. Precariat comes from the French word précarité, and précarité in loose translation means walking on moving sands, not having firm ground under your feet. And we ascribe this fear, logically, to the fact that somewhere in the cyberspace, well beyond control of our government, not to mention our own control, there are forces which we call by the name of global powers, which can do whatever they wish. They may strike at any moment. If my job is threatened, that's because of the process of globalization. And there is some truth in it. It's not foolishness to say that. But the trouble is that we didn't even start yet developing cosmopolitan consciousness, which means not only thinking in terms of our direct vicinity, environment, but also understand these global connections which determine the conditions under which we live.
So is this something that simply takes time, that we have to get used to the idea that we're interdependent on people and that we can live side by side and be dependent on our neighbours even if they are very different to us? Why isn't it working yet?
Why it's not working out? That's a very good question. But divisions between people and conflict between people is as old as humanity. There was always intermixing of the processes of integration and separation. For the first time, we are in a situation when we have to commit the next step on the road to integration without separation. Separation was always the instrument, the guiding strategy of the integrating effort. If you wanted to integrate people, you had to point to them joint enemy, joint other, stranger, which is against us, and we need to watch and be vigilant and defend ourselves. But the next step is already a step towards people who are in cosmopolitan situation. But that means the whole humanity. No enemy remaining against whom we will integrate. It's a new situation, untested, unpracticed so far. And that's what makes our present moment so, on one side, terrifying, on the other, so exciting, so fascinating. As I said, I am pessimistic in the short term. We are at the beginning of a long, long road. But in the long term, on the whole, except the future of Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I am optimistic.
Given the uncertain time and the anxious time that young people are now living in, are you glad that you lived in the era that you have lived in rather than in the era that is to come, the future?
I remember what great German poet Wolfgang Goethe, romantic poet, he was asked a question quite close. Did he have happy life? What he thinks about his life. And his answer was, yes, I had a very, very happy life. But, he added immediately, I don't remember a single happy week. And that's against the contemporary philosophy, the warning for us, because we have been brought up by marketing, by advertising, by ever new temptations, seductions, and so on, ever new fashions, to think about happiness as an uninterrupted row of better and better pleasures. And what Goethe suggests, and he was a very, very wise man, not only a great poet, is that happiness is in overcoming unhappiness, troubles. In one of his poems, he said that the worst nightmare is a long, long row of sunny days. The alternative of that, the product of that is not happiness but boredom, lack of excitement, lack of purpose to pursue, to fight for, and so on. What Goethe said was a warning for the younger people, really. Don't think about your life as a collection of gifts picked up from the unlimited container of pleasurable items. Think about your life as a long, long struggle. Long, long struggle. You resolve one trouble, comes another, and the side effects are very often unpleasant. So that is, I repeat for the third time already, what makes me short-term pessimist and long-term optimist.
Professor Baumann, thank you for talking
you.
to Al Jazeera. Thank you so much. It was absolutely
연금도 나왔으니 아무것도 할 필요가 없었어요. 근데 이건 정말 끔찍한 일이었습니다. 비극이었죠. 바로 이러한 이유로 저는 생산적인 활동에 매진하기 시작한 겁니다. 이것이 제가 시민을 위해 책을 쓰고 강의를 한 배경입니다. 이러한 노력들은 엄밀히 말해 행복을 위한 것이었다기보다는 삶의 공허함과 의미 없음을 피하기 위한 방안이었습니다. 제 생각에 행복의 반대말은 불행이 아니라 의미 없음입니다. 당신의 삶이 의미를 갖고 있지 않다면 살아갈 이유가 없는 것과 마찬가지입니다. 그렇기에 우리는 삶의 의미를 찾아야 합니다.
시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 구독, 좋아요, 알림 설정 부탁드려요. 사랑합니다.